Marvel Phase 4 just keeps chugging along, doesn't it? We got Black Widow just 2 months ago, and now it's time for Shang-Chi, the latest Marvel movie to hit theaters. So, is Shang-Chi any good? And who is Shang-Chi anyway? Shang-Chi has his beginnings back in the 1970s, when kung fu and martial arts films were becoming a popular genre. The comic book business has never been shy about latching onto popular trends in order to sell books. Whether it's kung fu cinema, blaxploitation films, or disco, comics, and Marvel in particular, have always been willing to jump on bandwagons. And so it was that in 1973, Marvel created Shang-Chi, a character clearly inspired by the films of Bruce Lee and other martial arts stars. Part of the reason Marvel created Shang-Chi is that in the early 1970s, Marvel acquired the publishing rights to Fu Manchu, a villain who appeared in a series of popular pulp novels in the early 20th century by a British writer named Sax Rohmer, and whose stories became tremendously popular. Marvel introduced Shang-Chi as Fu Manchu's son, who was sickened by his father's evil and turned against him, working with the British government to undo his father's insidious plots. The character was introduced in 1973 and would see monthly publication for a decade before being cancelled. Since then, Shang-Chi has largely been a bit player in the Marvel Universe, but since he's not Caucasian and he fits right into the current obsession that popular entertainment has with diversity, we now get Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. The film starts with a voiceover about how the Ten Rings were found centuries ago by a man in China who used them to become a powerful warlord. The rings made him immortal, and over the centuries this man, named Zhu Wenwu, created a criminal organization, the Ten Rings, which operated largely in the shadows. He eventually became obsessed with finding a hidden mythical land called Ta Lo, and in 1996 he found it and met a woman there named Ying Li, who manages to defeat him in combat. He and the woman eventually fall in love, but they are not allowed to live in Ta Lo, so they leave and have two children, Shang-Chi and his sister Zhu Jialing. Wenwu grooms his son Shang-Chi to be a warrior and an assassin and sends him on his first mission at the age of 14. After killing the target, Shang-Chi decides he doesn't want anything to do with his father and runs away to America, living under the alias of Sean and working as a hotel valet in San Francisco with his friend Katie. His life is normal until he's attacked one day by Razor Fist, a villain who has a sword for a hand. Shang-Chi defeats him, but not before Razor Fist takes a green pendant that was given to Shang-Chi by his mother. Worried that his sister, who has a similar pendant, will also be attacked, Shang-Chi decides to take a plane to Macau and warn her. His friend Katie tags along for some stupid reason. In Macau, they find Zhu Jingling is running an underground fighting ring that uses superhumans in the cage fights. We get a short fight between Wong and the Abomination, and then Shang-Chi fights his sister, and she beats him. Yep, it turns out that she's a better martial artist than he is. Not only that, but since their father wouldn't let her train with his men, she taught herself kung fu and of course became better than any of the men because she's a strong woman. And then she ran away and started her underground fighting network at the age of 14 and became rich and powerful. And yeah, it's the MCU, alright, where the women are always better than the men and the men can't do much of anything without the women around to help them. After they fight, a bunch of their father's men show up to attack them, and they take the sister's green pendant, which is identical to the one Shang-Chi had, which was a gift from their mother. We then get a fight sequence which ends with their father showing up, and it turns out he just wants to reunite the family. Wenwu reveals that he wanted the pendants because their mother, who they all believed was killed by gangsters years ago, is actually still alive in Ta Lo and is being held there against her will inside some sort of magic portal. Wenwu has heard her speaking to him in his dreams and implores him to come to Ta Lo to free her. Shang-Chi and Zhu Jialing are skeptical, so their father uses the two green pendants to activate this magic dragon statue, which plays out this CGI sequence showing how to find the hidden village again, which Wenwu says will reveal itself in 3 days. Then Shang-Chi meets the Mandarin, or rather Trevor Slattery, the actor who pretended to be the Mandarin back in Iron Man 3. It turns out that Wenwu, who is the real Mandarin, sprung Trevor from prison and brought him to his lair to serve as a kind of court jester for some reason. It doesn't really make any sense that he's there, but hey, Ben Kingsley is great in everything, so I'm not going to complain. Then this weird dog, pig, chicken creature with no head shows up, and it's Trevor's pet, I guess. Anyway, the creature, which is called Morris, is from Ta Lo and knows how to get there. They decide to go to Ta Lo and warn them about Wenwu's plan to attack the village, so they steal an SUV and drive it to Ta Lo through this magic forest where the bamboo is constantly shifting around. This sequence goes on a bit too long, in my opinion, and it's pretty clear that BMW paid handsomely for product placement in this film. So they get to Ta Lo and they are greeted by their aunt Ying Nan, played by Michelle Yeoh. She tells them that Wenwu is being deceived. The voice he's hearing isn't their mother, it's actually a demon of some sort called the Dweller in Darkness. It's trapped behind the portal and wants to escape and attack Earth. The people of Ta Lo guard the portal to make sure that it never gets loose. We then get a montage where the village prepares for Wenwu's attack while Shang-Chi, Zhu Jialing, and Katie, who's still tagging along, get new weapons made from dragon scales, which are the only things that can harm the Dweller in Darkness and its servants. Then Wenwu shows up and his men attack the village while Wenwu uses the 10 rings to attack the gate, which keeps the portal sealed. The people of Ta Lo fight Wenwu's men while Shang-Chi fights his father. Wenwu strikes Shang-Chi and knocks him into the lake beside the village, where Shang-Chi is found by a dragon that the people of Ta Lo call the Great Protector. It saves him from drowning while Wenwu tries to break the gate down. Wenwu damages the gate enough that several bat-like creatures get through and attack the village, sucking up people's souls and taking them back to the Dweller in Darkness to strengthen it. Then the Dweller breaks through the gate and kills Wenwu, but not before he transfers the 10 rings to Shang-Chi. The people of Ta Lo and Wenwu's men work together to fight the Dweller's servants, which are streaming through the gate, while Shang-Chi, Zhu Jialing, and the dragon fight the Dweller. The Dweller is destroyed and Earth is saved, and the movie ends with Shang-Chi and Katie back in San Francisco when Wong shows up and takes them through one of those magic portals that the sorcerers can create, and the movie ends there. We then get a mid-credit sequence where Wong, Captain Marvel, and Bruce Banner are examining the 10 rings and trying to figure out where they came from. They can't come up with any answers other than the rings are over 1,000 years old. Then, after the credits, we get yet another scene where we see that Shang-Chi's sister, Zhu Jialing, has taken over the 10 Rings organization, which is now co-ed with women and men, and we get a message at the end that the 10 Rings will return. Lowercase yay. And that's the plot to Shang-Chi and the Legend of the 10 Rings. So, how is the movie? Well, Shang-Chi is an aggressively mediocre film. It's not bad, but it's not particularly good either. Part of the problem is that there's a bit too much going on in this film, and it just doesn't add up to much. There's the story with Shang-Chi in conflict with his father, and his father wanting Shang-Chi to live by his ways. Then there's the story of Wenwu trying to find Ta Lo and save his dead wife, and the two plot lines feel strangely disconnected from one another. Once they get to Ta Lo, it becomes a different movie, and the change is really jarring. We start with this martial arts / family crime drama, and then it becomes this fantasy film about stopping a demon from invading Earth. Another problem the movie has is a problem that seems to be increasingly present in Marvel movies, and it really shows here. The stakes just don't feel all that real. There's an intensity that's missing from this film, just like in Black Widow. It never feels like the characters are in any real danger. I never once thought that Shang-Chi or another character was in jeopardy. This is partly due to the feminist slant that Marvel films seem to have now. They surround the male character with female characters. The male character is the main character, so he's not going to die. He's the franchise. But Marvel isn't going to kill off any of the female characters either, because that would be sexist, so nobody of any real importance can die, so it never feels like they're in any real danger. Added to that is the sitcom level humor they keep putting into these movies. Why is Katie along for every step of this story? She doesn't do anything useful until right at the end. She's just there to increase the film's estrogen count and make jokes that aren't funny. The whole thing has this nudge nudge wink wink tone that communicates that you really shouldn't take any of this seriously. It's all just a big joke, so who cares? Another issue that plays into the low stakes is the main villain Wenwu, or the Mandarin, since that's who he's supposed to be. He's portrayed as misguided rather than evil. He just wants to have his family together again. The actor, Tony Leung, isn't a big guy, so he doesn't have much of a physical presence, and he doesn't do all that much martial arts stuff, so he just doesn't seem all that threatening, which contributes to the whole film's rather flaccid tone. Simu Liu is not particularly convincing as Shang-Chi. He's just way too normal and laid back to have the personal history that he has. Like the movie around him, there's just not much intensity to his performance. He's adequate with the martial arts stuff, but not exceptional. He just doesn't have much in the way of charisma or screen presence, and the jokey sitcom patter between him and Katie just undermines the more serious plot elements. He feels like a supporting character in his own movie due to all the characters around him. And the martial arts stuff is done reasonably well, but there's nothing in this movie in the terms of martial arts action that really blows you away. It's just kind of there. Aquafina is totally annoying as Katie. She's not bad in the opening scenes, really, but once Shang-Chi decides to leave and find his sister, it makes no sense when she tags along. She has no fighting skills, she's obviously in way over her head, and her mere presence communicates that this is not to be taken seriously. If Shang-Chi were really in danger, he wouldn't be dragging his friend along. She's clearly a liability in any dangerous situation, but he lets her just tag along anyway. That's another thing. It's hard to take Shang-Chi seriously as some badass martial artist and assassin if he can't even stand up to Katie and tell her no. So when he gives in and lets her tag along anyway for no good reason other than that she just insists on it, it just shows that he's really not all that formidable. He can't even stand up to Katie and she's an idiot. The rest of the cast is okay. Ben Kingsley and Michelle Yeoh are always reliable, but the film just feels like it's trying to be too many things at once. I will say that how the rings are realized in the film and the mechanics of how they work is actually pretty cool, and I like that a lot more than I thought I would, since the 10 rings in this film are completely different than they are in the comics. In the comics, they're actually rings the Mandarin wears on his fingers, and each one has a different power. That's another thing about this film, and increasingly about Marvel Studios in general. This film is largely disconnected from the source material. Yes, Marvel has a character named Shang-Chi. Yes, his father is a powerful crime lord, but other than that, this movie has almost nothing to do with the Marvel comics. And the feminist slant to the movie, which is becoming just common currency in Marvel properties now, is hard to ignore. Shang-Chi is supposed to be the greatest martial artist in the world, but in this movie, his mother, his sister, and his aunt are all just as good, if not better than him. That's another problem with this movie. Marvel is so eager to surround him with strong women that the numerous characters really result in a plot that's unfocused. We get Shang-Chi's journey, but Zhu Jialing gets a journey too, and Katie gets a journey too, and as a result, none of them have a journey that feels very satisfying. And another thing that's increasingly common in Marvel films is that everyone has a male character, a white male character, who's just there to be a clown. And in this film, that's Ben Kingsley as Trevor Slattery. It was nice that they tied this film to the events in Iron Man 3, but once they get to Ta Lo, Trevor's character is completely pointless. Another character just clogging up the plot of this movie. It all adds up to a movie that's not terrible, but kind of boring actually. I never really once felt invested in this movie or cared much about the characters or felt that they were in any danger. And yeah, the after credit scenes are really just a waste of time too, by the way. So if you're going to see this movie, at least make it a matinee. I don't think you want to pay full price for this thing. I'll give it a slight thumbs down. Let me know what you thought of the movie in the comments, and please hit the like button before you leave. Also, please sub to the channel and hit the bell for notifications, and I'll see you all next time. Thanks for watching.